Welcome back to the Toppy Blues, your source for all things Everton. My name's Connor Williams, joined by Paul McAllister, and this is the preview for the Everton Spurs game coming up at the weekend. First things first, Paul, how are you feeling about the game? It's a big game.
Um, yeah, anxious about the game in terms of its importance, because it's been a while since we last won, and we really need to get not only get the points on the board, but I think we need to just give the fan base a lift. It's been a really hard 4 or 5 weeks. We've had injuries, we've had the extra charge come, we've had no new signings coming in, we've had rumours about 777, we've had that Richard Masters basically confirmed that he thinks Everton are a small club in front of MPs. It just felt like there's been a dark cloud around Everton for a while, but it's just felt like the rain has really been heavy over the last couple of weeks. So we just need to give people a reason to kind of smile again when they think about Everton, and there's no better way to do that than going out on the pitch and winning. So I'm a bit anxious about the game in terms of its importance, but in terms of us being confident whether we can get a result, I feel strangely not optimistic, hopeful. I would say I think we can definitely get something out of this, and we'll go into why I think that now if you want.
Yeah, you might as well carry on and tell us, because I've seen a couple of people say this as well. I know a couple of people have said that, like, despite results, it's sort of a season where we go in thinking that we could hold our own against pretty much anyone. So why do you think we might be able to nick something?
Well, yeah, on paper, Tottenham, and not just on paper, but in reality as well. But man for man, Tottenham are a much better football team than Everton. There's how many Everton players get into Tottenham's first 11? Maybe two, maybe Decore and Tarkowski, maybe. And I'd personally, I'd have Pickford over the. I think it's Vicario is the new guy, and Vicario, who I think is good, by the way. I think he's been a really good signing to replace Lloris, but Pickford would probably, I think, just because of his longevity in the Premier League, might get in, and Decore and maybe arguably Tarkowski. But other than that, there's 7 or 8 players who walk in. Who more than that, there's probably 10 Tottenham players, the certain players on Tottenham's bench who would walk into Everton's first 11. So on paper, they're a lot stronger than us, and they've got I think Ange Postecoglou's done well enough now, and he's been in the league long enough for people to kind of not just dismiss him as kind of, it was just a good run of form that they hit, and now he's kind of getting found out. I think Postecoglou's been, we're in February now, today's the 1st of Feb, so he's been there a good 6 months longer. I think that's long enough for people who were doubting him to kind of give him some credit now. So they've got a good manager, they've got a really strong first 11, I think, strong first 14, because they've got a good couple of, game changers on the bench, which Everton don't have. But the reason I think Everton could get something is I just think Ange Postecoglou's style of play that he insists that Spurs use, which is the high line, could benefit Everton here. When we've seen previously in the season, no matter what happens, in game, Spurs, he just won't compromise. They went down to 9 men against Chelsea months ago, and they still wouldn't, change tactic. And I think teams that play a high line, that's going to benefit Everton, because it's going to allow our forward players, to Dominic Calvert-Lewin especially, to get in behind and to have space to run into, which he so often doesn't have. And I think Everton's organisation, and maybe if Sean Dyche can get the game management right, I think there's just something there for us to nick, because I think Spurs are a very vulnerable side. They're good going forward, but they're a bit shaky at the back sometimes. And I think they're guilty of being a bit naive at times. Spurs, they don't see out games as well as they should do. They don't have any players who kind of know the little tricks of the trade.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes I don't know if it was mentioned in the media. Maybe somebody said it. Maybe even Ange. They were accused of being too nice, Spurs, recently. I think it was them that was accused of it. Which lies into what you're saying. Tips of the trade. One of them is the dark arts, managing to trip people up and stuff. Um, Also, we've got the game we played them on the 23rd, so not very long ago. Away, obviously their ground. It was a 2-1 loss with Richarlison getting one of the goals. But when you look at the stats for the game, yeah, the possession was in their favour, but that will be a running theme for most of our games this season. But when you look at sort of the XG, the total shots, shots on target, and the big chances, we actually came out on top on a lot of them. Andre Gomez getting the goal for us. And you could see it in that game as well when you were watching that game. You could see the high line you were on about. They are, a bit wary. And like you said, I know he's been criticised the Chelsea game, and I think it was the City game as well. People were criticising him for not changing.
Yeah,
And as good as
they were
he
too
is,
open, too stubborn. Yeah,
yeah, as good as he is very stubborn on it, which I mean, in the future might be his downfall, as we've seen with a couple of managers. But it bodes. Obviously, that was away at Spurs, and I know our away form has been very good, but it bodes well, doesn't it? Depending, I think the biggest one is it's depending on who's available for us, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, Decore's just been, a gigantic miss, and I think Sean Dyche said today that he was, unlikely to make it for the Spurs game. Now, maybe that's Sean Dyche telling a little fib to kind of hopefully lull Spurs into a false sense of security, because Dyche has said in the past that players are not going to be ready, and then we actually see them in the lineup, or at least make the bench. So hopefully Decore, he was just kind of being a bit overly cautious, and Decore can at least make the bench and play some sort of part. And he said Onana was touch and go. I think if Onana's more than 70%, I think he'll risk Onana. I know Dyche, doesn't like to play players if they've got any sort of issue, but I think even he recognises that without Takore and Onana, without both of them, our midfield's very likely to just get, completely steamrolled through, and we're not likely to get a result with that. So I think if Onana can pass a fitness test and the player himself, pushes to start, then I think against his better judgment, Dyche might risk it, because we've seen it before. When players are officially fit, just because the medical staff say they're fit and the players say they feel fit, he still holds them back. He was doing that a lot with Calvert-Lewin last year, wasn't he? So, what other injury concerns have we got? I'm trying to think now. Coleman, I think, hopefully will play a part. Ashley Young got a couple of minutes against Fulham. Did he start? Ashley Young started against Fulham actually the other
Yeah,
night.
yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I don't know if he played the full 90, but yeah, Ashley Young seems to be, back with the group and up for up for consideration. Um, be interesting to see what lineup we go with. Do we go with the three centre backs? Do we keep Godfrey in there, because again he did well when he was dropped in, and hopefully three centre backs will keep the likes of Richarlison quiet. Because remember, who have Tottenham not got available? Son's off at the Asia Cup, isn't he? Not who I'm trying to think of a player who's injured for them. Madison's, I don't think, is quite there. He's back in training, Madison, but I don't think he played the other night, did he? So whether Madison will start, I'm just not sure. But yeah, there's so much up in the air in terms of what the two teams could line up as. But I think if Everton can get their 80% of our players on the pitch, or 80% of our strongest 11, especially if it includes Decore, then I think we've got the personnel to kind of match Tottenham in a physical battle. Not, in terms of skill or anything like that, or in terms of, just football and ability, like getting your head up and finding the right pass, or getting yourself out of a tight situation, or even just kind of getting the benefit of the doubt from the referees, because Everton are never going to get a penalty. I've reconciled myself to that now, whereas I could easily see a Tottenham player throwing himself on the floor and getting a penalty in this. But I just think we could win the physical battle with them if we've got certain players available, and if we could win the physical battle, we can 100% get something out of Tottenham.
Yeah, they've got looking at the squad they lined up with the other day against Brentford. And they're not a physically imposing squad, to say the least. There's not many players in this starting 11 that I'd say. They do have a lot of fast players. Obviously Timo Werner got, I think that's his second assist in however
Yeah,
many games
he hasn't scored since he came back to English football yet, hasn't he? So, and who's he playing next?
Yeah, and he looked rapid. Although he didn't get a goal, he looked absolutely rapid and on fire the other day. Obviously Richarlison as well. Scored against us last time. Scored against us in Scored against Brentford. He's on a bit of a run. I think he might be their danger man. At the minute with Son being out, I think he might be their most informed player that we know. I mean, Sean Dyche doesn't, but a player that the club know well. I'd say he's probably their biggest threat at the minute. Him or Werner, but I'd say him just because of form.
You've got to hope that, because a lot of the players, who lines up with Richarlison at Everton are still here. I mean, we've signed one or two since we got rid of Richarlison. I mean, the likes of Beto won't really know him, but Tarkowski definitely does. Michael Keane definitely does if he plays. Godfrey definitely does. Don't think Jared Brandthwaite will. I know Jared Brandthwaite, was in and out the team a little bit when under Carlo Ancelotti and under Rafa Benitez, but I'm not sure, how many times he'd have played against Richarlison or been in the same team as Richarlison, so he kind of knew the ins and outs of him. But I imagine the likes of Tarkowski will know exactly how to wind up Richarlison, knows how to mark Richarlison, having to do it in training so many times. So you've just got to hope they use all their nous and think, right, I used to play against this fella in training in the five-a-sides, every week. So I know what his strengths are. I know what his weaknesses are. I know where he likes. I know what spaces he likes to run into. I know how he tries to get his head on things when a set piece is coming through. I know how he likes to try and lose his marker. You just hope that they're able to read him and somehow find a way to keep him quiet, because Charlison, who I've still got an awful lot of time for, he had a nightmare of a first season at Tottenham, and it just seems like he's getting the Tottenham fans on side now. He's hit a good run of form. He's got some goals. He looks like he's enjoying his football again. And and this is not to kind of stick it to Everton. I think he still loves Everton, and he's got a lot of time for Everton supporters like we do for him. But we know he's going to want to come back here and score more for himself and more for his new club, to kind of show, look at me. I'm not the type to kind of get my head down and kind of feel sorry for myself and feeling like the pressure's too much for me. I'm going to puff my chest out and show you all that. Look at me. You're lucky to have me. I just went back to my old employers and smashed them for you. I think that's Charlison's attitude, and that's what we've got to look out for. But if you can keep him quiet, then I think we can keep these out, because it is a strange stat that Jordan Pickford's got the most clean sheets out of any goalkeeper in the league. You wouldn't think that, because I don't. When you think of Everton, or at least when I think of Everton, especially this season, I don't think of us as a side that is strong defensively. I don't see us as a side that keeps out a lot of goals, but the stats don't lie. We've kept more clean sheets than anyone. I know we've had a couple of Tonkins here and there. That's probably pushed the goal conceded numbers up. But if Jordan Pickford can keep another clean sheet, what's he on now? 11 for the season. If he can get to 12 for the season, then it's even a draw. I don't think it's a bad result, but we need to get a win just for emotionally. If you offered me a draw now, I'd be very tempted, but I don't think I'd take it. I could live with it, could stomach it. I wouldn't be going mad on Twitter like some people probably will if we do draw against Tottenham, but especially if it's a boring game as well, like the Fulham one, but it's a 0-0 and you think, oh, we've got no goal threat. But I just think for emotional reasons, we need to get this win here. We need to give fans something to smile about. We need to get people kind of up again, up for the fight again, because it just all feels very defeatist at the minute.
Yeah, I completely agree. Coincidentally, I think I saw the other day as well, we're ranked like fourth in goals conceded per match.
Fourth as in fourth from the highest amount.
Yeah.
It's strange. How can we be that high in the goals conceded list yet be top of the clean sheet list? It's just strange. We're so hot and cold, aren't we, defensively?
Yeah, it's really strange. I think it's like averaging at like 1.3 a game or something like that. Obviously the big one on like you've mentioned the three at the back. This is obviously clearly dependent on who's available. As against Fulham, he was playing Dwight McNeil at centre mid, which I think a lot of people forgot. I saw Dwight McNeil catching a couple of strays. And I must admit, I don't think it was his best game by any stretch. But when you think he's having to do a shift in the centre, I don't think it was I don't think it's completely fair to be lashing the lad. Do you think if Gomez, Gomez is another option. Do you think he will? Worst comes to worst, Onana's not ready. Do you think he'll stick with the 4-4-1-1 we saw and the same sort of personnel we saw at Fulham? Or do you think he will push for that three at the back, which just gives us a little bit more freedom in the middle?
It's strange, Evan. Whenever we play three at the back, it always seems like a kind of hybrid where it's three at the back when we're in possession, and it's five at the back when we're out of possession. Kind of players move over, don't they? Like a player will tuck it, will go out wide when we're on the ball, yet they'll tuck in. Coleman does it a lot, doesn't he? play as an outright, he'll play as an old wing back like he used to when we're going forwards. But if we're not teams are coming at us, he'll tuck in and get closer to the centre halves. But I don't like three at the back as a formation generally, but I think with Godfrey's pace, and that seems to be the only thing Godfrey has going for him these days, the fact that over 15 yards, he is still pretty quick. He can win a foot race against a lot of forward players in this league. He might be the only player we've got who might be able to keep Timo Werner quiet if he plays, or Richarlison, because if there's a ball over the top and Richarlison or Timo Werner have got a yard on either Tarkowski or Jarrod Branthwaite, I don't think Jarrod Branthwaite's a slouch particularly, but Richarlison and Timo Werner, it's going to be food and drink for them. They're going to just get bear down on goal, get one-on-one with Pickford, and they're probably going to bury you. So we always have to make sure that we've got a defender who's between the goalkeeper and the most forward, Tottenham's most forward player. So if Godfrey started, I'd understand the thinking of it. I know Godfrey might be going out the club. Well, no, actually, we're on deadline day today. If he doesn't go in the next, as of this recording, if he doesn't go in the next couple of hours, then he will be. He's not going, at least not till the summer. But basically, Godfrey's fell down the pecking order, and people have lost hope on Godfrey a long time ago. And I think the club is more than happy to part with Godfrey as soon as we get even a half decent offer. But I still think Sean Dyche looks at Ben Godfrey and thinks he can get a use out of him in certain games and certain situations when it calls for it. And he's been proven right so far. He was dropped in against Burnley and was arguably man of the match. And he was dropped in the other night against Fulham. And he did exactly what was asked of him, kept another clean sheet. So if he puts his trust in Ben Godfrey again and goes for a kind of hybrid three at the back system, then for once I wouldn't moan. I don't like the formation in general, but I'd understand the thinking around it this time.
Yeah, I think it's and obviously like we've alluded to, it's a needs must type of thing. I think if he had Onana fit, I think he'd normally go with his usual and Decore, but that's a problem with a paper thin squad. A couple of injuries. I think you said it earlier on in the season when we spoke. I think you said this squad is only a couple of injuries away from being in a bit of trouble.
A crisis, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we lose Tarkowski or we lose Pickford, then goodness knows how ugly it's going to be over the next couple of months. Touch wood, it doesn't happen.
So what we'll finish on the score predictions. What are you claiming?
I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna say 2-1 Everton. I think it's going to be one of those, Goodison bear pit, backs to the wall, bearing down on the Tottenham players. Maybe a couple of the Tottenham lads maybe lose their heads and let the atmosphere get to them. And if it happens to Richarlison, I've got time for Richarlison. I won't fall out with Richarlison, but I'd love it if we can somehow get in Richarlison's head and he ends up having an absolute nightmare of a game. Akin to, do you remember when the one I always loved was Kai Havertz when we played Chelsea a couple of years ago, and Yerry Mina just completely had him on strings. An over emotional player who was trying too hard and was letting little niggly things wind him up. And Richarlison is is a fiery character who kind of gets wound up very easily, and it can go one or two ways. He can get wound up and ends up losing his head and having a stinker and getting dragged off, or he can get fired up and ends up playing out of his skin and ramming it down the opposition's throats. But hopefully it's the former, and as long as nothing drastic happens, I won't fall out with Richarlison afterwards. I think everyone will be all right with him again. But yeah, I'm really hoping that we can just, with the Goodison bear pit atmosphere, we can sort of intimidate Tottenham enough that we'll be able to get in the lead and hold on to the lead. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I do think they're going to score, but I've just got a feeling that we'll pip them.
Yeah. And when you're saying then about Havertz, it reminds me last season it happened with Haaland, didn't it? Ben Godfrey and Haaland.
Yeah, that was another good one. Yeah, but
yeah.
Haaland's Haaland, isn't he? Like he's even on his worst day, he's still likely to do something that really hurts you. But yeah, no. Whenever I think of players who, you'd think a shaky Everton back line would be perfect for them to be playing against if they need, and history bears it out. Whenever a player who's in desperate need of a goal step forward, Everton, but there are some examples of players who everyone thinks are going to absolutely destroy us, and then they get to Goodison on the day, and the atmosphere gets to them, and they end up just kind of having a nightmare of a afternoon. And it usually tends to be the fiery characters as well. So I'm hoping that will happen with Richarlison, and hopefully after the game, no matter what happens, Everton fans are still all right with Richarlison. I don't think he's going to do anything that it would be unforgivable or anything like that. I don't think he's going to do a Fellaini like kiss the Tottenham badge, or even if he does, I think fans will get over that. But as long as there's nothing like kissing the badge or swearing at giving any back to the fans verbally, or he doesn't go flying into a tackle and hurts one of our players. As long as there's nothing like that, then I think no matter what happens, fans will still be all right with Charleston because I've still got a lot of time for him. I just want him to have an absolute 0 out of 10 performance when he comes on Saturday.
Yeah, I think to be fair, when he scored in the early game, he did the no celebration thing, didn't he? Which was nice. But like you said, I've got a lot of time for him as well, and I'm glad he's turned it around the Spurs. But I do hope we see the Richarlison of last year at Spurs this
Yeah,
week.
or he calls up sick or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is all we've got time for. Paul, thank you for joining me, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, mate. Good to speak to you. Come
Don't
on,
forget,
you Blues. Let's get that win.
exactly. Need those 3 points. Don't forget, guys, you can like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and comment down below your score predictions. We look forward to reading them, and we'll see you soon.